How can I be useful to this group?
Yeah, that is a great question. And I think for me, I'll just go first. Like, man, anything like first, I love you to talk about all the stuff that you've done because to me, it's inspiring to hear how, how people get into capital raising, like how it even came about for you. Like, how did you even come up with the idea? Who talked to you? How did you get started with it? And then, like, to me, I just find that inspiring to know, like, how you kind of got involved and then where it went from there for you. Um, my my thought on this, and tell me if I'm crazy, but which I am, is I feel like a lot of the capital raising really starts with like relationships with people.
There's some folks that build businesses around capital raising, and there's some folks that build relationships. And I think there's probably, you know, there's a bit of both depending on how big you go with this. I work on relationships. Brandon works on a business. So like Hunter Thompson, those guys work on businesses. Not to say that they don't have relationships with, folks, but I just don't think to get to certain scale that once you start doing, you have relationship managers and paid ads and things like this. I think it's a different game, a game that I don't know, nor have I done. Um, and not to say there's no overlap, but that's kind of how I think about it. Like when you ask me, like, hey, is it based on relationships? I'm like, well, for most people, yes, because most people don't want to turn a business into capital raising. I certainly never did, right? I never wanted to, well, there's a couple of reasons for that, but I never really wanted to go out to the larger market and just be like, hey, anybody you can invest with me with it in this asset. I really just wanted to include friends and family. It's like, hey, I'm gonna make money and I love you. So you're bad at it and I'm better at it than you. So let's make some money together. And the way it started was essentially I was doing enough deals and I was running out of cash. That's it. I was like, look, this makes money and I can't do it because I need 40 grand and I don't have 40 grand. So I just started asking people for 40 grand.
So that's
And
literally how you did it. You just went like, hey, who's got this money? I need some money. And then how did you come up with like that's what's so crazy to me is like I get that that's like that inspiring like that motivation you have. You're like, okay, like that's because my wife and I ran into that same issue, right? And that's why this whole raising private capital, I guess, kind of started was we were like cash poor, couldn't find money, all this stuff. And then like hearing that story with you, like, so is that really how it came about? It was like, I need 40 grand. How do I get 40 grand? And then you just found someone with it. And then you worked out like how they were going to make money on their end. Like, how did you get all that figured out?
let's see if I still have these docs. Yeah. Yeah, I had a deal that was making money. I found another deal. I was like, hey, that deal makes money. This deal makes money. I'm gonna refinance that one. It's gonna take actually, it wasn't even gonna take 6 months. It was gonna take 3, 4 months. So I just went to a friend and I was like, look, yeah, I mean, exactly that. I was like, look, that deal makes money. I got this deal over here that's making money, but I can't tap into that equity yet. I'll have that equity back in like 90 days. Fucking 90 days, bet you. So I was like, why don't you float me the cash? We'll call it a 1 year note. Um, yeah, it's not nothing. Let's see, bro. Here it is from 2017. Here's my first pitch. It wasn't even a pitch. It was just like a contract.
I think you can share, I think, right?
Yeah. I'll
Okay.
go through a couple of these. So I don't know that I went to anybody and learned. I think there's a big problem on the internet with like who was good was Noah Kagan. He's like uh now, not how.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, dude, you guys probably know. I mean, everybody here, like, you can only knowledge so much. Eventually, you just have to go ask. Eventually, you just have to go ask. And there's nothing I can teach you about how to ask, really, other than like, it's like selling cars. I sold cars for a while. And it's like, who goes to a car shop and is like, I'm here to buy a car, full price. Motherfucking nobody. But people do it, right? When you get there, they're like, I'm just looking. 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 So you got to get in front of a lot of no's, and you got to get people to. Can you make me a co-host? So I think the key is, and look, it's hard right now. I haven't, full disclosure, I haven't raised much money since 2021 because I haven't found deals that I'm excited to take. Basically, I go like this. I'm like, look, if I like the deal and I ask my mom to take out of her lifelong 401k or her lifelong IRA, which she's very risk averse. If I'll go to her and ask her to take 50 grand out of the market and give it to me, then I'll do the deal. But if I'm not willing to ask my mom, if it's too risky for mom, like I can't convince her, and I basically am like, it's probably not that good. Not that she's a good character, but that's like where I measure, like, if I won't take it from Jeff, if my mom's not going to invest, but Jeff will invest. I mean, I just don't work that way.
Gotcha.
I don't want to lose anybody's money.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm sitting there. It's 2017. I had done 4, 5, 6 deals. I was burring. They were going slick. And I just go to my buddy. Is this the actual? Fuck yeah, it is too. Look at that. This is the actual. So I just said, hey, 30 grand. That's what he borrowed. That's what he lent me. It was a loan, really. It wasn't like a syndication. There's no legal. This is it. This is everything. I'm going to pay him $400 a month. I basically gave myself like a month because I knew, I was like, dude, this thing is going to close in like 30 days or like in like 90 days. And so I just got like I don't know where I got this. I got this. This is like a template off the internet.
That's awesome.
Right? Because it's like, I mean, you don't need anything fancy, dude. You're just talking about people's, like, you're just talking about people you know. And you just want to cover your bases, right? Severability. You want to know, like, you want to have exit strategies, right? Late fees, distribution on death. What are the payments? The borrower understands that the payment of the above installment payments may not fully amortize the principal balance of the note, and therefore a balloon payment may be due on the due date. Right. That just means the $400 a month is not going to get you 30 grand. That's it, dude. Like, that's it. This thing is not fancy. It's semi-enforceable. And if I lost all the money, this wouldn't have protected him. This was just like a formality between friends. This is when you say relationships, I'm like, this guy knows I make money.
Yeah. Wow.
It didn't even have the property.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I didn't see the property in there.
There's no property. There's no I didn't put him on I didn't give him a lien. He's not first position on anything. This is it. So this idea that you need to have some big thing, what you need to do is actually, I wrote a couple of things down tonight. I was like, I'll just share this. First, where did I write this thing? Let's see. I don't know what of mine you can see. I didn't want to make a big presentation because I don't like doing presentations.
No,
but I wrote a couple of things down. First, you need a deal. If you got something that makes money, like, dude, there's not a single, this is America. That's like the thing that everybody wants to do. They want to make money. If you go to somebody, you're like, hey, I'm going to make money. And there's a place for you to make money. Okay, I'm listening, right? As soon as you start saying stuff like, yeah, as soon as you start saying crazy stuff.
Hey, Megan, how's it going?
As soon as you start saying
you're
like,
driving, that's cool.
Yeah, so
as soon as you start saying like, 60% IRR in 20 days, like as soon as you start saying crazy stuff, people go away. Bitcoin, people run. But you're like, hey, this is a real piece of real estate. Mm-hmm. Well, anyways, I'll get into the specifics about that. You need a deal. Then you need to ask. If you don't ask, what's the answer? Who's going to give you money? Who has ever called you and said, is Megan here? Hey, Megan. Megan, can I give you some money? You set the terms. You tell me when you'll pay me back and at what rate. You tell me. Can I give it to you right away? What's the most I could give you? Like,
I don't know, $100,000.
No, you're not listening. It's never happened. Nobody's ever called, and that's the wrong answer. There is no maximum. My point is, if you don't ask, then Nobody's coming, everybody here's old enough. I'm looking at the rooms. There's no 19-year-olds in the room, right? Nobody is going to come beating down your door to give you money. So you have to ask, you have to ask, you have to ask, you have to ask. You don't have you can't learn your way into a deal. You can't like educate into how to do this. You just have to go and ask somebody. And then what happens is people will do two really great things. Actually, one really great thing. They're going to give you feedback. And that feedback is going to come in a wide variety of things because you're going to ask a lot of people. They're going to say, Jeff, I lent you $50 12 years ago and you never paid me back. I'm never going to lend you money. Like, oh shit, I forgot about that. Okay, well, that cost you. They're going to say, oh, I'm doing my own deal. I love real estate, but I'm doing my own deal. I'm broke. Maybe I'd like to do it, but like, how much do you need? Oh, I need 50 grand. Well, I only have 7, so I can't do that. Or they might say, tell me more. But everything that you get, every time they're like, well, when do I get paid back? Great, that goes in your pitch deck. What's the interest rate? Okay, that goes in your pitch deck. Every time they have a question, you're like, okay, that will go into my pitch. Because when you get better, you don't want to show them this. This is terrible. Right? When you get better. So I did this deal. And then I started doing, let's see, the next big deal I did, we did this. This is much nicer.
Wow.
Pro tip. Hire somebody on Upwork for $100 to make your pitch decks.
Dang. Wow.
Even if you don't close the deal, the $100 is like, I don't know. I bet you had $100 meal sometime this week or this month. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is who we are. So this deal, I went off and I worked on this for a long time. Actually, I wonder if there's, hang on a second before I wonder if I have more in here. Let's see. Oh, there's the draft. That's what it looked like before I paid somebody on Upwork.
Oh, wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I didn't even know the deal yet. Individually metered, confirm this. You build it as you get the deal, right? There's who it was. And it was just like, you know, if you've never done a business plan, a business, you know, SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, you want to give people enough information so they're like, oh, this motherfucker knows more than me. They don't want to really look. I guarantee you nobody's looked at, I don't know, you've not looked at, you don't know how to do your own, probably not doing your own underwriting. You're maybe going through this stuff, but you don't know what a deal in Fayetteville should be like anyways. So is 5% realistic? Is 4% realistic? Is a 33% expense ratio? Is that realistic? Like, if you don't know, then you're just like, well, this guy sounds like he knows. So I just wrote everything I wanted to do. That's all I did. I just wrote everything I wanted to do. Look at this. Due diligence, fully inspected, close deal, make it rain. That deal raised me, what did we end up raising on that deal? We raised $370,000 from 6 people, something like that. 350,000 from 6 people. And we did a JV, which is illegal. We should, you know, you need to do a syndication, but it doesn't make sense at $1 million purchase price. So, you know, fuck the law. I don't care. It turned into this. We used Vax investments, which turned out to be a really bad idea. Thankfully, this was in 2019. Let's see. And I just asked. I had an email list because I blogged. And I think nobody from the email list on that deal was a stranger. Everybody was people I knew.
Question on this.
Of course.
So, did you guys look at whether or not you were going to be triggering any kind of
like syndication or SEC, like selling securities type thing?
Oh yeah, we probably broke SEC law.
Okay. Yeah, we've gone through this quite a bit, and now we've got specific attorneys that set up syndication structures for what we're doing. And there's ways you can get around it with smaller deals and like, you know, how you're structuring it, right? If you're I think the key, what you just said, is important, that make sure you know people and you're not like blasting it out on Instagram or LinkedIn, because that's where you don't get in trouble until the deal goes bad and one of the investors then comes after you, and then you get tripped up for not following SEC guidelines. But anytime that you are selling an investment in real estate, you're selling a security, and there's specific exemptions to having to register with the SEC. But you can usually fly under the radar with smaller deals and small groups of partners.
Yeah, I know syndications. I did one legally the next time, but on a $1 million deal, the syndication attorney is 15 grand. It doesn't make sense.
No. And so
It doesn't make sense. And I'm not a syndicator trying to get one deal and skate the rules. I'm a nobody trying to get this one deal. I didn't advertise it on Facebook. I didn't advertise it on Instagram. Also, I'm a rule breaker. If you're a rule follower, don't do what I did. If I had to do this again, I would break the rules again.
Yeah.
No, I think honestly, for what people on this call are doing, I'm not suggesting that that's something that we really need to worry about, right? If you're buying a small deal, it's a small group. I think it's just kind of a discussion you would have once you find people that are interested, setting it up in a way that you can say everybody's somehow participating in this, and then that's how you get around it. It's a partnership and not a syndication.
Yeah, we set it up as a partnership. Yeah, look, Jeff asked me to come do this. I'm telling you what I did. I'm not giving you any legal advice. Talk to Mauricio. Again, we also said like, look, do you want to do this as a business or do you want to do this as relationships? I'm a relationship guy. These were sort of my, you know, a lot of them were my friends. So, but this worked.
I'm not criticizing you, Alex. I just wanted to ask the question to see
for sure.
I thought about that.
So, but look, you can't go much bigger than this without going legal. Also, the same reason, look, I'm not trying to do janky on purpose. What I try to do is, I guess the correct term would be like grassroots, right? I'm a quick start kind of guy. I'm like, let's get things done. I don't care that it's all polished, but there is a level of sophistication that you have to both. You can't go janky too long because then you're just janky. And if your legal is janky and your pitch decks are janky, then somebody's like, this guy, the way he's going to run this thing is janky and the way he's going to pay me is janky. So we skated the rules a little bit here, but look, the pitch deck was good. The deal was, we'll get to that. Deal was actually not that good. I learned a lot. The deal is not that good, but it wasn't like, it is what it is. This deal, I said, let me run this for a year before I buy another one, because I wanted to make sure I really knew what I was doing. And I'm glad that I did that actually, because this deal was a problem. Now it's worth a lot more, but we bought it in 2019. It was tough, dude. This thing is a D class all day long. This thing is not that nice. And the big mistake that we made was we undercapitalized. I was afraid of raising money. $350,000 or $370,000 was a lot of money. What I should have done was raise $470,000 so that I could take a lot of the cash and put it into the deal. What's the number one reason that businesses fail? Do you guys know? It's across every industry. The number one reason businesses fail.
Don't know. Vision.
Cash flow.
Not enough capital.
Undercapitalization. Yes.
Undercapitalization.
Yeah, you run out of cash. So I got this deal. I got low rents. I got shitty tenants. I have no cash to rehab. And because they're low rents and shitty tenants, I'm not making cash flow enough to rehab out of cash flow. So I'm just stuck. I'm just stuck. And it was a slog. was a grind, and we ended up doing okay. And then what happened in 2021?
Yeah.
The market got stupid. I sold this thing at the peak, and I paid my investors a 50% IRR, and everybody's happy. But
Wow.
not because I was so great, just because everybody who bought in 2019 and before is now rich because of inflation. So the capital raise worked. Make sure you have a deal. So okay, so also take if you get lucky, get fucking lucky. Let's see. So then I take this, and then I go and I do this guy. This is in mid 2020. Look, I took that picture. Middle of COVID, and we buy this guy. This is 3.3 million, 52 units, same town. Now this was a lot different because what do I keep saying? Like you got to have a deal, right? And you got to know, like, you got to know how it makes money. If you don't know, if you're just hoping, man, nobody wise has ever written a book about investing where the principle for success is hope. It's what? It's buy underpriced assets. That's the entire Warren Buffett strategy. Buy underpriced assets. So if you want to know if something's underpriced, you got to know what it should be priced at. So I find this deal. It's good, not great, but I knew that it was reasonably underpriced and that we could make a deal on it. And so I did the same thing. I put the pitch together. I was going to have to raise a lot more. So what I did, and by the way, this is all on my blog. I've written probably 7,000 words on how exactly I did this deal, from good, bad, 1-year reviews, 2-year reviews. Like, it's all on there if you want it like in detail. So this one, I was like, dude, I'm just going to tag in a partner because I was afraid of raising 1.3 million in cash, 1.4 million in cash. I was afraid. So I tagged in a partner who could raise the money. Turns out he couldn't. And I had to do like the overwhelming majority of it. And so this one, we did a 506B. Guess what? We skated the rules on that too. I now have a relationship with everybody that's on the deal, but whether we did or not at the time, I don't know. So, don't listen to me, or do, I don't care. This one, we were a little bit more advanced. I used the same partners, the same property manager, and the same operations partner. So all our back end stuff, what we had now, we had the advantage of, we had been borrowing money for a while now. We knew the market really well. I own 8 properties. My property manager owns 22 properties. He property manages about 400 properties, and my other partner owns about 6 houses. And we have been doing historicals on a similar like property in town. So once you go from having projections to having historicals, the game changes. The game changes because you're like, I know what that motherfucker is going to rent for because I got one just like it 2 blocks up. So I know what it's going to rent for. Instead of like, we think it should be 850. No, we know it's going to rent for 800. It's not going to be 850. So you can tighten your underwriting up. But that whole idea right there is why it's so important to go borrow money for good deals and go do it in small doses. If you're doing deals now, just start asking for money even if you don't need it. Start giving up your profit now to buy trust. You're like, you just give me 50 grand. I'll give you, I'll give you 12% annually. I'll pay you back in 6 months. You're like, you have the money. It's like, right. But you buy the relationship. Because if you do it right, somebody will they're like, oh, I'll give you 50 grand. They'll give you 50 grand forever. So, and it gets you more deals. So once you have more deals, you have more historicals, you start to really know the market. And then you can start putting together this pro forma, which was much more advanced than the previous one. And we knew that the expense ratio on this one was 56%. I knew the other one, the projection was 33% or whatever. I was like, there's no, and now in retrospect, I'm like, no way. Right. But we got that down to about 46%, that expense ratio. So I knew that this one would be the same. So we knew that this was about 10% high. That's it. I was like, I know there's a 10% margin here right out of the gate. And I also knew rents were teensy tiny, a little bit low. Yeah. So these rents now that we projected to be at 725 are now 950. No, these are 850. And we had hoped these would go up to 875. These are about 1,000 now.
So you're still holding
And-
this property.
Heck yeah, dude. Everybody else is fucking pausing payments and losing money and stressing. I'm like, dude, I'm sitting on cash and distributions. My partners keep bitching at me. They're like, you're sitting on $300,000 in cash. You should distribute that. I'm like, no, I'm not distributing shit. And we'll get into that. We'll get into that in a moment. So the team, same partners as last time, except Jeremy. We added Jeremy because he had something like 12 big apartment buildings in Florida in Florida, so he knew the property, he knew this business a lot better. Pro formas, sensitivity analysis, like, hey, what this is one I know. I found out before. I was like, the property, when I had 2 vacancies, I was basically break even. That was terrifying because the property was only 24 units. I'm like, wait, that's 10%. So I can't have that. So I knew this one. I'm like, we had to go to something like, we had to go to something like 70%. We'd have a 30% vacancy to go to loss. So look, I know that none of this is about capital raising, and I apologize.
That's
But
fine.
my approach towards capital raising is, if you make money and you're very confident that you can make money, the only other thing you have to do is yell it from the hilltop.
Mhm.
I have a deal. I have a deal that makes money. I have a deal that makes money. I need 100 grand. Ask. That's why I focus on the deal. If you have a deal that makes money, they'll come running. Well, they won't come running, but they'll give it to you if you ask.
But okay, so question with that though. So you go back to your very first deal, right? So you went and asked for that. Okay. And then obviously some of these deals the same thing, but when did that kind of turn, I guess, a little bit on you to where now maybe you have like an investor pool? So like Alex goes out and gets a deal and everybody knows, oh, he's going to get a deal. We're just going to dump our money to you. Like, you're not asking as much, you know what I mean? Like you're
Never.
just, does that make sense?
That has not happened. In fact, I'm fairly unqualified to be here. I haven't really bought anything since 2021 because I haven't found deals like this since 2021. So I raised for my friends in New Jersey. We raised probably $500,000 this year. They have a great deal, but there is never going to be a time where people are just sitting around going like, I'm just going to give all my money to Alex. I will say the people who invest in this deal, many of them will probably invest in the next deal if it's as good and it's in a good timing for them. But you're always going to have to work for it.
Yeah, and that's what I meant to say is like all these other people you built up for this last deal. So if you go do another deal and you show it to them, they're gonna be like, yeah, I mean, I'm on board with you. Does that make sense now? Like, I'm just trying to say, like, you're building up your customer base because they trust you. You have relationships with them. They're seeing the deals that you've already brought. So now they have more confidence in you and they're like, yeah, Alex has brought another deal to the table. Are we going to jump on? Hell yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. What's interesting right now, a lot of syndicators are having trouble with this. It's my superpower. Confidence. I know syndicators who have paid people really big returns and they don't get repeat business. And the reason is not because people actually don't care about returns most. They don't. They don't. That's why the financial advisory market is so big. My mom works for a financial advisory firm in Rhode Island. They have billions in assets under management. You know what they do? They fucking buy the ETFs.
Wow.
And you know what? Because people invest in people. They want their hand held. They want to feel like they're in good hands. So if you communicate well, you will get repeat business. I over communicate with my investors. I tell them everything. I tell them more than they care about. Oh, did it says screen share paused. I don't know if that was me or you. Doesn't matter. I'm not sharing anything important. So this is why, like, a lot of people they do newsletters, they do blogs, they do podcasts. They just stay at the top of people's mind. Like, this is what I got going on. This is who I am. This is what I believe in. And this is why I think, shows like Whitney Sewell, who I love, and Joe Fairless have struggled because they're not authentic. Now their machine is so big, but that's why they've partnered with other people who like Good Egg, who do the capital raising, because those are, you know, Annie and whatever her name is, like they show their face. So like, I don't know, there's multiple ways to skin a cat, but the reason that people will invest with me again is because I get on the internet all the time and I tell people what I think. Good, bad, or ugly. They're like, that motherfucker's real. And he says what I don't want to hear, and he says what I do want to hear, and at the very end of it, at least I know I can trust him, even though sometimes I don't like what he has to say. But with investing, bad news is going to come, and you want somebody who's going to give you the bad news. A lot of the syndicators are struggling with it now. Mauricio talks about it every week. He's like, the biggest complaint he has with the syndicators is they don't communicate, because everybody's having a shit show right now, which is why I haven't bought anything since 2021, by the way, because I knew this was, interest rates went up. Who knew? I thought it was obvious, but what do I, I'm just little old me. And then so what's happening is they're not communicating. So they're not going to get repeat business. I don't care what returns they have. In fact, now, if the rates suddenly drop, which I don't think they will, and the property values go up and they cash everybody out with big returns, you're still not going to get those repeat investors, because they know you're going to get bailed out. And they're like, I'm only going to invest with him when it's good. Because when it gets tough, he goes ghost, and nobody wants that. So the reason people will invest with you again is not because, look, you got to be able to make money. If you lose people's money, if you communicate really well and you lose money and it's some big systemic event, you'll get a second shot, maybe. You might get a second shot. If you don't communicate and you lose money, you're 100% screwed. If you make decent, okay, nothing to brag about, you basically make the market, you make 8%, and you communicate well, you'll get customers for life. That's what the S&P is. And people invest in this where all the money is. People invest in the S&P all day. Oh, you make them 8% and they got a little tax return? I'm not saying it's everybody, but you don't need everybody. So that's why when I talked to you last time, I'm like, dude, your blog is important, podcast important. Like, putting yourself out into the world is important, because people that's how they're going to vet you. Yeah, communication.
Yeah. And that's
you're always gonna have to fight for it. Sorry, last thing. You're always gonna have to fight for the money. But when you communicate a lot and you communicate honestly, that line of communication stays open. People know what to expect from you. Yada yada yada. Sorry.
No, and that's a good point. You just said that. It makes perfect sense to me, and I kind of not emulate Brandon, but like what he does, and people vet you on the internet. Like, that's crazy now to think that. I mean, my age, and I think some of us, we're all probably speaking from this point. Like, it never used to be that way. He used to be vetted by like a handshake and getting to know somebody. And now, like, people literally, they'll just look you up, like, oh, is Craig a real person? He's talking about this, and they look up Craig Parsons and like, oh yeah, the hillbilly investor. That's him. That's the guy. And that's how they vet you. It's crazy. And then they look at your videos and they think you're legit, or you're legitimate. So it's just a different mindset than just walking up to someone saying like, hey, here's my deal. Shake hands on it. You seem like a good person. I'll invest with you. Whatever. You're almost doing that virtually now, and it's weird to wrap your head around that. But you're right. I feel like getting out and having podcasts, doing shows, making sure people know you. Joining groups like Better Life or whatever it is, to where you're out talking to people and doing things. People are going to start taking, for some reason, they start taking you serious. I don't know. That's just kind of what I'm seeing.
It's the same as before. It's the same as it's always been. It's always been handshakes. It's now
it's just virtual.
Yeah. Now you get to reach more people.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. My blog has made me so much money, and I don't SEO. I don't advertise it. I just write. I put on the internet. If you look up Alex, before too long, you're going to find, it used to be called brokeasachoice.com. Now it's called Life and Lens. And it's just what I think. It's all my deals I've ever done in radical, wild transparency. I used to publish my HUDs. I'm like, here's exactly what I made and what I paid for these houses. Here's everything. And I don't need a big conglomerate mogul real estate empire. But when Jeff looks me up, I'm like, want to know how I raid the watch? I'll show you exactly what I do or why it works. Because when you say like, oh, Alex, what did how did you do that deal? I'm like, I can come on here and chat with you. But in the chat, there is, I don't know how many words that is, but there's a lot of exactly what I did right, what I did wrong. It's everything. What I
Wow.
learned, how to rely on partners. Yeah, there's everything. Oh, and guess what? It's every deal. You know what I mean? Flips, deals from across the country. Like, so when you're like, oh, is Alex legit? I'm like, go find out. You don't have to do all that stuff, but it's a combination of things. You know, it's the asking, it's the good deals, it's the constant communication, it's the social credibility, which is social credibility. People think you have to like, it's not, I don't do marketing. I'm not selling anybody anything. I'm not like, oh, invest with me. I'm like, dude, I don't even have any deals right now. Not really. I have a couple little things that I'm working on. I have my partners in Maryland who are raising money. They don't fucking need me. They don't need my help. If I bring them $500,000, they're like, all right, cool, thanks. But they raised $6 million in 2 days. They don't need me. And we might buy this Dairy Queen thing, but it's looking really ugly right now. And if I do that, that'll be hard. I'll have to go find $2 million that I've never raised for a deal that's weird and doesn't have cash flows, and not real estate. So I'll go have to work, real work. But the work is in the ask. The work is not in like making sure all these things are perfect. It's just, you have one good conversation with somebody online, you can have no social there's a lot of people with no social presence that raise a lot of money. So you don't need all those things. You gotta ask a lot, and you gotta have a deal that makes money, and then it compounds, because then you're like, hey, I raised money, we bought a deal, we paid our investors, assuming you're have any sense, you're like, I'll get some testimonials, I'll ask them for referrals, I'll keep them on an email list. Like, you'll compound the thing. But anyways, that's my pitch. That's all I got.
Yeah, your story, I feel like just reading through some of your stuff's pretty amazing, dude. But like how you started out in this whole thing and kind of where you're at now, you've done some stuff, and that's what I think is cool. And that's what I feel like, I hope a lot of people on here, that's kind of the idea, is like, not just to go out and just raise money and buy deals, but it be adventurous. Go try new crap you've never done. Like, don't just like, don't just, oh, I'm just sticking to this and this is what I'm going to do. Like, that's why, like with Better Life, it's nice because there's a lot of people on here that have done a lot of different things, and you can ask them questions and they're willing to tell you, like they're willing to help you through stuff. So if you, whatever you want to do, buy a mobile home park, or like what Kevin's doing with campgrounds and stuff like that, like that's all legitimate stuff. And like, we can do any of that stuff. So it's not like, don't just do it to go out and raise money, but do it to be adventurous. Go try new things. I feel like there's a lot to be said about that. And we're in a country that we have the ability to do that kind of crap. In a lot of places you can't do that. So why not go take advantage of it and make things happen? So Alex, you're right. I feel like a lot of we're just stagnant. We sit and we talk and we analyze and we talk and we and it's like no one wants to step out and go like, I need money. I'm trying to do this deal. I was talking to some of my church recently about a deal, and I'm like, he's like, well, I've got money. What do you do? And I'm like, well, actually, I have a deal right now and I'm trying to buy it. I need this much money. He didn't think the return I wanted to give him was enough, but I was like, okay, well, that's fine. I'll move on. But I said, I'll keep you in mind. At least I know you have money now, and you want to do the deal. So, but that just took literally just a quick conversation. It didn't take much. And then obviously I have a relationship with the person. I know him. But I just feel like a lot of people, like you said, are just afraid to even make that first ask. Like, go talk, go say something.
Yeah, it's different skill sets. I'm good at none of them. I'm great at none of them. I'm good at a bunch of different stuff. So I've done sales. I'm a dabbler. So like, I have that under my belt. I'm thankful that I have that, but I can't do deep precision on skill sets on anything. I'm good at, I'm always going to be a jack of all trades, and I'm okay with that. I prefer that way of living anyway. But it's a little bit of sales, right? It's a little bit of real estate, knowing the deals, knowing how to communicate that stuff. You got to like people. Introverts have a hard time raising capital. Although I do know some that do it. Jay Scott raises money. He's as introverted as they get. Yeah. I'm not saying that it's not a limiting thing. It's just, I think it's probably a little bit harder than somebody who's like, I just want to talk to people all day. But the people like me who want to tip to people every day, I'm like, you know what I don't want to do? Deep
Yeah.
work. I'm like, I need the introvert engineer type to keep the machine running. So, you find your skill sets. Matt Faircloth is good on this. He's like, there's the 4 players for raising money, and just like trying to find out what you're good at. But I do worry sometimes, like raising money as a skill set in and of itself. You then are at the mercy of the performance of the operator. You've become a financial mercenary. So for me, I never wanted that. I will not do that. I won't even actually do it for deals that like I'm a GP on. Like, yeah, we'll give you a slice for like, I sometimes people trade me GP slices for media, if you can believe it. But they're like, hey, can you raise us some money? And I'm like, I'm not going to my mom and telling her to give you money. I don't know what your deal. I haven't seen your underwriting. I haven't seen the property. No, not doing it. So I'm not saying you can't be that way, but you then run the process of like, oh, I got all these people to give money to Ding Dong, and now Ding Dong is costing everybody's money. It's like, dude, you're the relationship. You're the social capital. And for me, that's just more important. Not that I want to be liked by everybody, but I do want to do right by everybody.
So let's talk. Okay, so you just talked about Matt Faircloth. I read that book. That book was is pretty involved for me. What, I guess, book recommendations do you have, or what books have you read that have kind of led you down a clear path of doing that, or have you read any or podcasts? I don't know.
I read Matt's book, and he's the one that really taught me. He's the one that was really, you gotta have a newsletter. You gotta like stay top of mind with these folks. And since then I did a newsletter. I was bad at it. I finally hired somebody this year to run my newsletter, and it's finally going better. But I don't think you need, I don't think I don't, how do I say it? I love books. I read a lot of books. I don't know if you can tell.
Yeah.
But the books I like are on abstractions. I read macroeconomics, but I'm not going to read tactical books. For tactical, pick up the phone. Right? That's where relationships come in handy. I got Jay Scott's number. I talk to Jay Scott pretty regularly. Faircloth and I are good buddies. I just tried to do this Dairy Queen thing, and I've never done a business like that before. So instead of going off and doing a podcast and reading a book and figuring out how to, who knows what about doing, basically mid-size, small business. I mean, 600 employees, mid-size business M&A. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. I called Scott Trench, who just did 2 exits. And so now I'm like, oh, he told me everything I needed to know. Right? Actually, he told me 80% of what he needed to know. And then I had a good reason to call him back in 3 weeks and, work on it. So for tactical, I just, ask somebody who's doing good at what you do. You're better off paying a Matt Faircloth $500 for an hour than spending 100 hours on podcasts and getting half an information and trying to do it yourself. Just like one phone call will change, one phone call with a bunch of ideas, and then implementation, right? Matt Faircloth's book says do a newsletter. So do you do it? Because if you're not doing the thing, then it's not an it's not an information problem. I can tell you right now. I mean, he says a lot of things, but that's the one that stuck with me. But
Right.
The reality is, your fucking customers will tell you what you need to do. When you ask, and you're like, hey, I need higher returns. And it's like, okay, the guy you asked, what returns does he want?
Oh, the guy I asked? Yeah. So we were discussing that, and I told him, I was like, yeah, I'll give you like 10%, returns. And I'm like, this was a flip house. This was like a 3-month, like quick deal, whatever. I didn't know what the hell I was talking about, but I'm like, I don't know, I'll give you 10%, on what you loan out. And he was like, oh, I can get better than that if I go here. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. That's just the number that worked for me on that one. You know what I mean? But it just, yeah, obviously, the more I learn, I'll say some foolish things. And I look back and I'm like, oh, I probably should have been a little higher on that return. I could have made something else work, but the
Yeah,
numbers.
did you do the deal?
What's that?
Did you do the deal?
No, I didn't end up doing the deal. I just didn't get the funding, but I didn't ask enough people. I didn't keep going around.
Well,
asking.
you didn't give them enough. You didn't. You might not. You might have should have paid 12-15%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to ask, but like, you know, on that first deal, that Eagles Nest deal, I took no acquisition fee. I took no asset management fee. I took no fees at all. I didn't take any single premium for doing the work. And I put in the biggest share. And I guaranteed the loan. I took the most risk. I did the most work. I found the deal. I raised all the money. And I took only the same return of the amount that I put in equal to my partners. And that's why part of why they did it. Because they're like, this guy is taking all the risk and no benefit. And he's getting the same as us. And I said, why? Because I got to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So we're
Tuition
new at
payment.
this. Tuition payment. Fuck yeah. I don't know what, dude, I could have made an extra. I think my check that I put in $67,000 into that deal. And I think I walked away with, I think the check that I walked away with was like 135 in 2 years, which is not bad.
No, definitely not.
It could have been probably 20 grand higher, maybe 30 grand higher if I had done acquisition and asset management fees. But what if I didn't do the deal because I was feeing people? They're like, yeah, no, it doesn't work for us. And so then I don't do the deal. Like, I guess on this blog, one of the things that it writes is one of the things that I learned is the value of the skill of being able to ask people for money and raising it and collecting it legally and whatnot, and being a good steward of people's money, asking for money, being a good steward of their capital, being able to find the deals, having the confidence to go and say, I can go get $1 million. All of these things are worth more than any paycheck that they could have paid me. If I could do it all again, and it's like, hey, Alex, you're going to do this deal and you're going to do it for 2 years, you're going to do it for free, I would say yes. Because the skill set is worth more than the cash. So anytime somebody's like, you talk about rates, I'm like, we're off by 2% and I don't do the deal and I don't get to build the relationship and I don't get whatever the profit would be. And I'm going to trade all that for 2% that he would want, 5%. How about we just split it 50-50? You know what I mean? Like pay. I don't want to say pay for friendship. You can't pay for relationships, but you can pay for a chance. You can pay for a chance of trust. Hey, let's do this deal. I'll put it all in your favor because I want you to trust me. The next deal, I want to flip it. The next deal, I want it to go more my way. But this first deal, I'll give you all the benefit. I'll take all the risk. Maybe even the first couple, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Until you get better terms. And then eventually you get big and you're like, oh, turns out now paying him 15% doesn't benefit you because you can go over here and get it for 8. Because now you have a track record. A lot of the flipping companies, right? They measure you on how many deals you've done. As soon as you start getting to 8, 10, 12 flips, it's like, dude, they'll give you loans at 6% all day long, even today. Right? Oh, 7%, 1 point all day because you've done 20 flips in last year. Right? But once your first one, they're like 15% and 3 points. We don't know you. We don't trust you. You're expensive. So you go look at that guy, you're like, dude, 12%, that's a good deal. You should, I'll give you 15%, no points. I'll give that deal all day long. But anyways, I'm not trying to pick on you, but just like the confidence that you get from asking and doing the deal with somebody and going to sleep with their hard-earned money on your shoulders and then communicating the good and the really effing ugly to them, even when it's painful, and all the delays that real estate comes with and the stress, that experience is worth, yeah, you should do it for free.
That's good. I love that. Dang, yeah, no, you're not picking on me, dude. I love that because that's exactly what I should have done. I should have went into that deal and said, no, look, I'll take it. What do we want? 12, 14%, whatever. Let's make it happen. We'll into questions here. If you guys have any questions for Alex, let's throw them out. I mean, good grief, this has been actually really, really good and like impressed. Just winging it like the way I guess winging it like the way you are, but I love where you came with all that stuff from your backgrounds and the deals you did, because that's exactly what again, like I said, I like to hear. I like to see how you start and how you finish, or where you're at in the process, how you got to where you're at, and that's super amazing, dude. You should be extremely proud of yourself, dude, because like I just love that you just go out and do it. Like you're like, I'm just gonna go stink and do it.
It's got its downsides.
Well, no, absolutely. But that's the problem. I feel like a lot of us, why don't we want to do it? Why are we afraid to do it? Because of our ego gets in the way. And I think a lot of people are afraid to get turned down. They don't like to hear no. Well, it's a good deal. Why don't we, and they get butthurt about it. But no, I really like that you just go after it and do it. So you're right. It does have its downsides. I've experienced that. Let me ask you this.
I have problems with ego too. Don't let that fool you.
No. Let me ask you this, dude. So is a mentor something you would recommend? Either raising capital, I don't even care if you're buying into your, I don't know, single family going into multifamily, whatever it is, because you were talking about Matt Faircloth and giving him $500 for an hour with him. Is that something you would recommend then, is go and find some of these people, and if they charge you just to pay them and learn from them? Henry Washington, a lot of them out there charge quite a bit of money, right, to learn their stuff, but is that worth paying into, or is it better to just go out and, like you said, just experience it on your own?
I have always had, in a weird way, I've always had mentors. None of them have ever thought of themselves as mentors, agreed to be a mentor, had a structured mentorship program with me. I think the word, I'm always curious what somebody thinks of when they heard that word. Should I go get a mentor? And I'm like, what does that mean to you? Somebody already knows all the things you want to learn, and they can explain it to you in just the right way that you like. When you write a book, you write it for everybody or for some audience. When you and I have a conversation, I'm like, dude, I'm talking to you. And so I can read your body language and I'm like, okay, you're not getting it. Okay, how about like this? Right? So like, I don't know, what's the difference now between a mentor and a friend? The reason I know Matt Faircloth is I saw on Facebook one day that he bought 192 units in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And I didn't know him, and I was in Fayetteville, and I was a Fayetteville investor. And what did I do? I got his, I think I Facebook messaged him, and I was like, hey dude, I'm a Fayetteville investor. I saw you bought that. I would love to can I get 30 minutes of your time? And he said, yes. What do I do? I just asked.
You just asked.
And I got 30 minutes of his time, and he answered the phone. He's like, hey, this is Matt. He doesn't know who the fuck I am from Adam. Right? And I said, how dare you buy a property in my town without me knowing? And we've been friends ever since.
Wow.
So he's been a tremendous mentor to me. Jay Scott's a mentor to me because why? Because he's on Facebook all the time and he responds to comments. And so if you shit talk him, or if you do, if you make a thoughtful comment or a thoughtful question, not just like, dude, this is great. If you make a reason for him to answer, and then maybe you private message these people, you can build relationships, and then you can ask. You can ask a little bit of somebody. Henry Washington, I talked to him on the phone yesterday. I don't pay him, right? Like, you can ask a little bit of people if you show people that when they give you advice, you take it, because nobody wants to waste their time. If they say, hey, you should start a podcast, you'd be perfect for it, and then you don't, and then you come back 6 months later, you're like, how do I do this? And you're like, you should start a podcast. You'd be good at this. And then you don't. The next time you call, they're like, I'm busy.
Mm-hmm.
What's that? What's that joke? Anthony Jeselnik. Do you know this comedian?
Mm-hmm.
He got this joke. And he's like, I go to college and I asked my grandma for some money, but instead she just gives me a Bible. And he's like, gee, thanks, grandma. And so and he's going through, and he's like, I'm having a hard time and I'm running out of money and I'm broken. So I call my grandma, like, grandma, I got some money. She's like, well, did you read your Bible? And he's like, yeah, grandma, I can't put it down. It's great. And then a couple months go by and he's like, strapped for cash, whatever. He's like, grandma, really need some money. I'm going to lose my student. I'm going to lose my housing. Really need some money. And she's like, well, your answer the answer's in the Bible. Have you been reading your Bible? And he's like, yes, grandma. I don't know how the joke ends. Something. And he's like, he finally picks the Bible up and he opens it and it's a letter and it says, go fuck yourself.
That's
The
good.
point is, maybe it's Kevin Hart. Yeah, maybe it's Kevin Hart. I thought it was
Probably.
Anthony Jeselnik because he's so abrasive. The point is, like, these people put out content. Jay Scott's written 4 or 5 books. He puts out a blog. He's got newsletters. He's got podcasts. He's telling you what he thinks. So a lot of times with the mentorship, you have to kind of earn a little bit above and beyond their time. And you can, if you're friendly, interesting, you listen, and you have specific questions. If you're just like, hey, can you teach me everything you know? They're like, I've already written everything I know onto the world. So, and also there's a million people who know what you need to know that aren't influencers. That aren't going to charge you for, I've never paid for, bro, real talk. I am in a lot of masterminds. I go to a lot of conferences. I go to a lot of VIP parties. I have a lot of these people's phone numbers. I've never paid for a mentorship, a coaching, a community. I pay for conferences. I've never paid for a VIP package at a conference. Not one, never. I do it because I shove my way in. I ask, I shake hands, and I'm a little mean to people. And they kind of like that. That's a super, not everybody can get away with that. But if you can be mean to people a little bit, it's surprising how much they like it. Actually, Miss Kate, she's like, I don't know why anybody's friends with you, but it kind of works. But anyways, you got to find your way. Mentors are incredibly valuable. My first mentor in real estate was a guy named Lee Huffman. Nobody knows who he is. He's got a podcast. You probably never listened to it. He's got a podcast. It's about travel hacking. He's buying in Fayetteville. I saw him on Bigger Pockets. He reached out to me one day and he's like, hey, I see you on Bigger Pockets. I saw you're in Fayetteville. Would you like to get a beer? Yes, love beer, actually. Turns out I'm an alcoholic. I love it. Let's go. And dude, we just got beer. We just drank for like 4 or 5 hours and just been friends. Guy owns 6 properties in Fayetteville. I own 0. Every time I'm like, hey, what about this deal? What about this deal? Finally, one day, I get a deal. Comes to me. It's like 50 grand. I thought it was a little overpriced. In retrospect, I was fucking stupid. But at the time, 50 grand, I'm like, I don't know. He's like, I'll buy it. And I was like, really? He's like, oh, I'll buy it right now. Give it to me. I'll give you a finder's fee. And I said, well, if you're going to buy it, then I should buy it. But I was scared. So I got a $2,000 finder's fee. He closed in like 6 days. That property cash flowed for him day one. It's worth 200 something grand now, right? I mean, but he taught me because we were so close. He's like, I'll buy it. I'll take the risk that you're not willing to take. You watch me. And then the next time you see a deal that looks like that, that's 50 grand, you scoop it up immediately. He doesn't have a coaching program. Nobody knows who he is. He's not an influencer. He's just the guy who I met on the internet through Bigger Pockets. So do you need mentors? Yes. Am I fortunate that Jay Scott takes my phone calls and every once in a while I have a specific question for him and he can, I probably call him, I probably ask him for help twice a year. And probably 10 times a year, I text him and I say, dude, hope you and the wife are doing good. Maybe I'll see you at BP Con. I can tell you haven't been to the gym. What's going on? I know you want to go to the gym. Why aren't you going to the gym? Same thing, Matt Faircloth. I'll just text him and just be like, hey, I don't need anything from you. Hope you're well. I invest a lot into those relationships so that one day when I'm like, I need it. Hey, everybody wants me to sell this deal, but I don't think we should sell it. What do you think we should do? What's up? Whatever the case, I'll have a specific question. I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but
No.
Yes, you need mentors. Yes, it's worth paying people for mentorship sometimes, but like, there's a lot of people that will help you that won't charge. You know, if you're gonna go sit down with Warren Buffett, it's like a couple of $1,000,000 and you get a 3 or 4 hour lunch with. I think you get I think you get like as much as you want, and you can get lunch with Warren Buffett. It also goes to charity, but it's usually like a couple $1,000,000. If I had a couple $1,000,000, I'd go sit next to Warren
I'd do
Buffett and ask for him for a day. So like, there's time and places for that, but there's also, it is that the industry is overflowing with bullshit.
Mhm.
So I think this word mentor, it's like, dude, it could be somebody in your town that's just done a little bit more than you. I call them close carrots. I've done 2 deals. The guy who's done 10 is the guy you need to talk to. You don't need to talk to the guy who doesn't live in your city, that's done 100 deals, and he's at this big platform, and it's 10 grand. It's like, dude, you need the guy who's done a little bit more than you that you can get a beer with once a month.
Yeah.
That's the mentor you need, in my opinion. Until you get like hyper specific, Kevin, I know you're doing campgrounds. I know a couple people who do campgrounds. There's not that many of you.
Mhm.
Right? You probably need somebody around that's like, hey, I got a hyper specific question. And it's like, dude, there's not that many people that have the answer to that and are willing to get it to you that aren't direct competitors. You might have to pay, or maybe you have to get into a certain room where it's like a small group retreat mastermind for people that do that asset class. Or I bet you it's other things like, hey, how do I hire better? You know, how do I, develop my tech for check-ins and stuff like that? Like, he's probably got hyper specific questions depending on how big it is.
But also, Alex, I think it's important not to like pigeonhole ourselves into thinking that it has to be someone who does what we do. Like, I could come to you with my problems and be like, Alex, this is what I need help with, and a fresh set of eyes that isn't stuck on, okay, this is how it works in my industry, or this is what I was taught. That goes a long way. So I think it's important to, like you talk about all the time, right? Just ask anybody, ask whoever's in front of you. Go search for someone that has a good point of view on something and ask them your question. And chances are, if they're a good person and they don't know the answer, they're going to know someone that they'll refer you to. That just seems to be how people are these days, right? And I'm learning, being a total introvert and having never really been on social media, like I can ask questions on LinkedIn and people connect and will more than happy to pitch in. So I think it's less industry specific and more just the right people who can think things through.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or
I think the word. What's up, Ty?
No, I said, or people who just stretch your thinking. And I think that to me is just as valuable as anything else. Like, I need someone to stretch my thinking. Maybe kind of speaking to the same thing Kevin mentioned, but just who's going to stretch my thinking? Because I think sometimes we overthink it. And so I think action is a lost art right now, in my opinion. It just, I just think we overthink it. Sometimes you just need to have enough and to go for it, and then just kind of backtrack from there. Obviously not being reckless about it or someone else's money, but I think we overthink it. And in this market, you can't really overthink it, I don't think.
Yeah, a lot of people, I'm good at that. People call me who I have no business helping, but because I'm so contrarian, I'm usually, sometimes you just need somebody that's like, okay, this is what I think. Where am I missing? And my brain just works that way. It's actually not always that helpful, but sometimes it's got its usefulness. But yeah, so anyways, mentors, dude, mentors come with that term comes with so much social baggage. I think it hurts a lot of times because people are looking for something, like Kevin said, something very specific. Like, I need this person who does exactly what I want to do, and they want to be friends with me, and they want, they're looking to help me, and they want it to be free, and they want to be at my beck and call. And it's like, you get to this weird thing where you're like, dude, go to your local meetup. Go every month. You'll start to meet the people who are regulars. You'll start to meet the people who are advanced. You talk to them. You'll solve all your freaking problems. You can call them mentors. You can call them friends. You can call them partners. I don't care what you call them, but that term has a lot of baggage.
Yeah, and I feel like you're right with that term too. That one of the issues I see a lot of people is they use a mentor as almost like their way of getting where they need to get. They're like, okay, well, help me get there. And it's like they're they almost want the mentor to do all the work for them, or the person or whatever. It's like, well, okay, so I just told you how to, like you just said, like, yeah, you should start a podcast. And they're like, cool, okay. And it's like, they're like, well, can you help me start a podcast? You know, it's like, there's a point where that mentor gives you the advice and you need to actually do something with the advice that you're getting. Because a lot of people now, they ask the person will give them the information or tell them, and then they're like, okay, well, can you hold my hand and walk me through that too? It's like, well, there's a point where you have to walk on your own.
That's why mentorships are so expensive, by the way. Right? If I'm going to babysit you, yeah, 25 grand all day long. And I know you're not going to do the work. So all the money comes up front. We're not doing this monthly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right. Yeah. And then you're gonna be like, oh, Alex is not worth it. I'm like, no, I'm not that good at this, but like, I can't babysit you. My time is worth that to me. You want to buy, I think about it all the time. Like, dude, I'm not, if you want my time's not that valuable, but my freedom is.
Yeah.
My freedom's incredibly valuable. So as soon as you want to start taking my freedom away from me, it's like, oh,
100%.
I don't actually want to do this. So you're going to pay out the ass. Yeah. And the wealthier I get, the more I'm like, no, I just don't need the money. Thanks.
The other thing I think you mentioned, but I think bears repeating, is that when you do take the action for whomever you're getting mentorship from, I think what I have learned recently is I go back and report back. Hey, remember how you told me to do this? I did this. And then I discovered this, and now I got another question. And so then it's like, oh shoot, she actually did it. Let me answer her. So that's how I end up getting with Christy. Christy, no one was talking to her at a conference, and I'm sitting there thinking she's the smartest person at this table, and no one figured it out because she's also the quietest. And I just went and started asking her questions, right? And then she was like, holy smokes, you actually called me after a conference. I was like, yeah, I did. I have more questions. And she was like, okay, I have more answers. And then eventually she said, oh, you really are interested in this development thing. You know what I mean? And then we just kept talking. And then I became with her schedule. She's like, hey, I got to plug you in every month because I want to know how far you are. With what it is that you told me you're going to do, just a month ago, saying, hey, did you ever buy that RV park? Literally, like last month. And I'm like, no, I got scared. It took me 4 months to be honest about it. Like, no, I got scared. I didn't know who was going to manage it. And she's like, well, thanks for being honest. Okay, what else are you doing? You know what I mean? So I think it's just important to report back. Once you do it, report back. It's just keep reporting back. Because then she introduces you to someone else.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And she's feeding off your motivation too, right? They see that you're motivated. You're not just in it like I said, that's like that bump on the log, like, okay, I hired a mentor, like, okay, walk me through it. But if you're like, okay, I did what you told me to do, well, now here's the next step, here's what I'm running into, here's my next problem, then they're like, this person's actually excited about this and motivated, and you feed off of that. I love when people come back and ask questions about, hey, I just got this duplex. I just had a guy ask me about that today. He's working for us, and we're trying to teach him out, real estate investing and everything. And he's got that, I'm 50, I can't do that, right? That kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, hang on a second. So I was explaining to him today the concept of the house act, just getting a duplex. His wife and him want to move down here, and I'm like, you guys get a little duplex, you fix up one side, rent it out, blah blah blah. And he was like, really? I'm like, yeah, it's not hard. Like it's easy. So he started looking, he started following up, like, whoa, I found one. Here's something I have. Like, what do you think of this? And it's like, there we go. It's like, but if you tell that to somebody and they're like, nah, that's great. Whatever. Well, are you going to help me go find it? It's like, no, I just told you a great idea. Like, are you going to do something about it? And they don't. It's like, all right, see you later. So yeah, I feel like the whole concept of the mentor, Alex, you're right. Like, that's why they do charge a lot, is because there's people wasting their time, and time is their freedom. And it's like, you're going to take all my time, I'm going to charge you, a lot to do that. So that's some of them out there are crazy expensive. But I feel like a lot of them, especially with Better Life and other communities, you can just go out, you just got to go talk to people. You go to those conventions and you're walking around, there's all those people, go bump into them and start asking them questions. It's like, I was intimidated by that. I'll tell you, like when I was at Denver last. Henry Washington is there, and I wanted to talk to him, and I was like, oh, I don't know, you know, but he was just hanging out. Like he was no different than anybody else. Like he wasn't like, hey, Henry. He was just like, hey, what's up? You know, what do you got? I'm like, dude, I just wanted to hear how you got started and whatever, right? And then it was like off to the races. It wasn't a big thing. He's nobody different than anybody else. It's just people get intimidated by, you know, whatever they are. It's a social thing or something. I don't know, but
Yeah. Last story, and then I'll go. I'm
Yep.
immune to that. Thankfully, I have a very Ty, maybe you can relate. I have a very fortunate life experience in that I went downrange to Kabul in 2003 at the beginning of the war. And I went with a Green Beret team. And I met, you know, America's most elite heroes by any measurable, you know, by any measurement. And they were regular people. Plus they're gun nerds, but they're regular folks, right? A lot of them are egomaniacs. A lot of them are insecure, and that's why they do those things. They're also tough. Like they're special in a certain way, but for 99% of it, they're just regular ass folks. And then while I was there, I met generals and commanders, and I was hanging out in war rooms, and I met Donald Rumsfeld.
wow.
And, you know, then I went back the next year and I did more of the same. And then I get into this real estate world and all these, this term that they throw around that infuriates me. Rock stars, these jackasses that have never, you know, been near a bullet and don't take any actual risk.
Mm.
And then they have the audacity to, you know, I shouldn't say they have the audacity, but you should not be intimidated by these regular ass people who have happened to make more money than you. Maybe many of them lie like a fucking rug. So I sort of got immune to that by that experience, because now they're like, you know, these folks that are like, you know, I'm not intimidated by them. I'm just not. And I can't share that, unfortunately, like that experience, and nor would I want to if I could. But, you know, maybe that perspective will help. Is like these people are slightly better, they've been doing it slightly longer than you, and they've hit their stride or whatever, but like they're as regular as they fucking get. I know Kathy's on the other edge. I've been to Kathy's house. She's on the other call. I've been to Kathy's house. You know, obviously I've been to Brandon's house. I've been to Josh Dorkin's house. Who else? You know, all the people on that podcast. I did a podcast in one day 2 years ago. I did a podcast, my buddy's podcast. I was the co-host. We interviewed Robert Kiyosaki, who I've now met 3 times, and Grant Cardone in the same day. And I was shit talking Grant Cardone just like I shit talk everybody. He is good at some things and he's bad. Like every human being, he's good at some things and he's bad at most. So
You wouldn't
know,
be you if you didn't talk to Grant Cardone that way.
he's like, he fucking tried to politic me so hard. He goes, oh, the military, that's the one thing that I wish I had done. Uh-huh.
Hmm.
I was like, well, I said to him, well, my friend, a little war goes a long way. So be glad you missed it. I fucking, anyways, I don't get that. Anyways, I got to split. I hope this is valuable.
Yeah.
You know, I'm around.
We appreciate you.
If I can be useful to anybody. Thanks for listening to me ramble.
No,
Thanks,
way.
Alex.
Yeah, Alex, really appreciate it, man. Great job. Thanks for jumping on. I hope I didn't interrupt too much of your gym time.
No, I apologize for the miscommunication.
It's all good. We're all good, man. Awesome,
I'm an
guys.
egomaniac. You say 5 o'clock, I just assume it's my time zone because it's mine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's central. It's in the center of the country, man. What the heck? Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, you gotta work on those principles, man.
That's right. Yeah, that's the next big book. Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on, guys. Appreciate it, Alex. We really appreciate you, buddy. Have a good one, guys. Take care.
Thank you. Be well.
Bye-bye.